Everyone loves a new puppy, and every year, thousands of beautiful puppies of popular breeds are purchased by families with the best intent. But all too often, what isn't seen is the plight of those puppies' parents. New Pennsylvania laws brought many changes for commercial breeding dogs and the closing of several commercial breeding facilities across the state. But suddenly, dogs that had lived their entire lives in the breeding industry had nowhere to go. They needed help, and they needed intensive rehabilitation. When Animal Friends humane officers received a call from the state dog warden, they leapt to action.
It was actually very difficult to find this particular kennel. It was out in central Pennsylvania in a rural area. It was actually off the street. When I pulled in, I saw very large buildings, some farm buildings. I had my window down. I didn't hear any dogs. And I had to actually call the dog warden supervisor to make sure I was in the right place, and he said I was. They had had their kennels around the back of the buildings, way in the back of the property where no one passing by could have seen it. People driving up to the facility couldn't have seen it, and it was very difficult to find. When I got there, they had already begun removing some of the dogs from their kennels and placing them in crates for transportation. Some of the dogs were barking. It was actually very, very loud. A lot of them were very scared because there's more activity and sort of hands-on experience than they'd had in quite a while. Prior to the regulations, the kennels used to be very small. They could be stacked on top of each other. A lot of times they had wire bottoms, tops, kind of like a chicken coop. The dogs couldn't get out to exercise. They had very little vet care, very little socialization. The chicken wire on the bottom of the cage is a little difficult for the dogs because it can splay their feet out. Because they get used to standing on it, they have to accommodate, and a lot of times their feet can become disfigured from that. This particular facility really couldn't come up to the regulation standards that Rendell had set in 2008, mainly the larger kennel spaces, the access to exercise, and the sanitary conditions. So in order to do this, they decided to surrender some of their dogs to Animal Friends and a couple other shelters in order to better meet those regulations.
With that visit, Animal Friends admitted 20 very small dogs with very special needs.
We actually started loading the dogs. They were very frightened. They were barking a lot. A lot of times they would hide at the back of their crate. We had to put on little plastic collars for identification purposes to keep track of them. There's so many of them. And a lot of times they were frightened of us even touching them. They didn't bite, but they were just very, very scared and worried about it. They didn't know how to walk, so we had to carry them, put them in the crate. And when I finally got them all in my van and started taking them back, it was a very loud experience for the first 10 minutes or so because they were all barking and very excited. The dogs were very dirty when I first picked them up, a lot of matted hair. Again, the feet had the sort of splasia because of the wire bottoms on the crate. Some of them had tumors on them, a lot of them hadn't received medical care in some time. So they were a little rough, but they needed the attention the Animal Friends would give.
Having never been treated like pets, the dogs were terrified of human contact.
When I first got back to Animal Friends with them, again unloading them from the van with some volunteers, and a couple of them I tried to walk out of the van. I realized these dogs had never been on a leash, would actually fall over when you got them put them on the ground out of the car because they just didn't know how to walk. I realized then that they were going to need a lot of rehabilitation just to learn how to be a dog and to socialize with people.
Rehabilitation of these dogs could be a slow process, but Animal Friends is committed to giving each and every pet a second chance, no matter how long it takes. Training, socialization, and focused attention in foster care would help the dogs learn how to love and be loved. The dog's next step was to work with Animal Friends' behavior team.
Animal Friends Behavior Program is here to help the mental health of our animals, to make sure that their life is enriched with training, appropriate care, toys, anything that would enrich their life and make their stay here at Animal Friends healthier for them, and also to help us make appropriate matches for homes so that they are in homes that match their personalities. The dogs that are currently in the room with us were brought in from a commercial breeding facility, which are facilities that use dogs strictly for breeding purposes, and the puppies are sold off to pet stores across the nation. They knew no human kindness until they arrived here, so they were terrified of humans. They thought when we reached for them, it was for something bad.
Many of the dogs also needed time to recover from medical problems.
They were in deplorable medical conditions. Little Vanessa here, we actually thought she had a broken tail, and it wasn't until Donna, who is sitting by me, who fostered Vanessa, that we found out her tail really wasn't broken. It just had such a severe mat that it was matted to her body. We found that many of them had very severe ear infections, gum infections, internal infections from having so many babies and not being cared for. It took at least 2 months to get them medically cleared for adoption. Then we began working with them to socialize them with human beings, both here at the shelter and in foster homes.
Today, the rescued dogs are ready to find loving homes. Many of them already have. Those who still wait attend Animal Friends small dog socials so they can socialize with people and other animals.
They are learning to trust now because we have volunteers who take them out 4 or 5 times a day and sit in their rooms with them and are learning to walk on leash. They didn't know anything about collars, they didn't know anything about leashes. Lots and lots of work have gone into these guys, and they will continue to need lots of work. Putting them into a home takes a lot of screening on our part, and these guys really do best with another dog that can teach them how to do things. This is not a dog that is going to give you instant reward as a puppy would. It does give you instant reward when you are on the right page and when you see them pick up a toy for the first time or grab that little pepperoni bag. They can be wonderful, wonderful pets. There's just a lot of patience needed, and you really have to have your heart in the right place and want to do what's best for all these animals that so desperately need our help right now.
Whether you can adopt one of the rescue dogs or not, you can help right now with your donation. Your support makes success stories like these possible.
While taking these dogs could bring on sort of an unexpected financial drain due to the rehabilitation they need, both emotional and physical a lot of these times, Animal Friends was grateful to be able to take them because there are a lot of worse fates that could have happened to these dogs. It can be very difficult to do the job I do. One of the great things about it that really helps me out at the end of the day is knowing that Animal Friends can help them, knowing that we have the resources and we have the support to be able to help these dogs, whether it's bringing them in or whether it's helping them in the home they're already at. I know that we're there to help them. That's a good thing.